Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner, and today we are with guest Anthony Atkins. You're going to hear some really wild and crazy stories today about how Anthony got started in martial arts. And if you don't know Anthony Atkins, you need to YouTube him to see his competitions. He's been on ESPN many times. He competed between 1991 and 2004 in different martial arts competitions. He's a world champion martial artist in forms. Did you do fighting too, or just forms?
No, just forms.
Just forms. So if you ever want to inspire someone for performance martial arts, he is literally the guy. Taught me when I was a kid as well. Did tons of private lessons with him. And honestly, I've seen a lot of martial arts teachers in my day. And I think one of the best around. Anthony, thanks for coming on today.
Oh, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for bringing me in. I don't know exactly what to say, but I'm just here to talk.
That sounds good. That's all you need to do. So I want to start with one of the craziest stories, or I don't know about crazy stories, but a story that stuck with me for a long time is you trained in martial arts since you were 10. And then in high school, you were not the biggest kid. You're a small guy, right? I'm a small guy too, but you're a small guy.
Oh, yeah,
So tell me about the story in high school where you actually had to defend yourself.
All right, so I had just transferred over from one school to another school. And I was about 15, and I'd really just came out, definitely feeling comfortable with myself. And I had a rainbow bracelet on in the cafeteria, brand new to the school.
Wait, where was this?
In Alabama.
So you just came out in Alabama, you're wearing a rainbow bracelet. And what year was this?
God, it had to be, 96?
96. Okay, so I'm assuming people were not that friendly to gay people in Alabama in 96. Or it wasn't...
Yeah, let's just put it that way.
Okay.
You're down in the Bible Belt, so
yeah,
it's a little different down there.
What gave you the confidence to even come out at that point?
I just knew who I was. It was just a little bit, definitely being at home, I felt more comfortable because I knew who I was.
Did you know anyone else at the time?
Oh, yeah. I knew, somebody else that I had known since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'm sort of like that, and then that's what it was.
So you felt, I would just feel like if I was in Alabama at that time, and 96 is a little bit later, but still, I feel like you have to be very brave. Even now it's scary, but not nearly the same like then in that part of the country.
Yes.
So you're wearing your bracelet, you're in school, what happened?
Well, he called me a sissy.
Okay.
And I know I'm gay and everything, but I don't like that word sissy. And then also he said, oh, faggot and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if you say it again, we're going to have some problems. There's going to be some issues and situations.
Yeah.
And, he was sort of like the jock. And it wasn't just him, it was some other guys. So, they do it in groups.
Yeah.
It's never alone by themselves. They do it in groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess because someone, if they can say, oh, I'm really big in jockey, let me call this gay person out. He's shorter than me.
Yeah.
But you really don't know me.
Yeah.
So they said it again. I had to defend myself, and maybe a little bit over excessive to try to beat up 3 people, but I wasn't finna let them just say anything about me.
Yeah.
And so being first at that school, it was the first 2 or 3 days, I'm already suspended.
So what happened? Tell me, when you said you had to defend yourself, so they said, they called you a name.
They called me a name, put their hands on me, and then...
they pushed you or punched you or...
grabbing you, oh, I'm really tough and walk up on you. And I'm a fire nature. I may be a little bit short in stature, but I'm not going to let someone just come up on me. And so I think it was like a lunch tray. I think I swing at them, and it was some kicks and some punches. I wasn't finna it was, as you say, when you're fighting, it's very blurry. But when I came back to school, I was popular.
So, how did you defend yourself against 3 people? Did you hit the big guy first and the other ones ran away? Or
well, it was just whoever was in front of me, and with 3 people, that's why I had my lunch tray. So I was swinging at.
This is at lunchtime.
Oh, yeah, this is lunchtime. There was a lot of people around.
I'm assuming you didn't practice lunch tray as part of your competition at your school. It's just what's near me?
I don't know. Well, in my family, it's always you can always pick up a brick and bust into the white meat. So that tray was my brick, even though, and I still have my feet and everything. And I think definitely standing up for myself when I came back to school, people's wow, I became popular even though I was out gay. And I even became friends with those guys.
Okay.
I started working out with the football team guys in weightlifting class and conditioning.
So you earned their respect.
Yes.
Interesting.
Very, very.
How do you think that's different from kids today? Because like kids today is like, don't touch anyone. Like you should never put your hands on anyone. And like, they're almost taught to be like very passive and to be like victims. Now, that doesn't mean you should like just fight people, right? But sometimes like someone's got to stand up for themselves. And as a martial arts teacher, like whenever someone comes to me and they're like, yeah, like my child's getting bullied, right? Like physically. Well, the best thing is always to have like prevention, right? So the child doesn't get bullied. And it's like how they hold up for how they stand, how they hold up for themselves, right? If you look like a victim, you're going to be one. Now, but even if you do everything right, someone's bigger than you and they decide they want to be an a-hole, they could hurt you, right? So, like,
Yes.
how do you're a teacher now, you've been a teacher for a long time. How do you teach a kid, like, when is the time to actually defend yourself?
That's a very, very important point. Definitely as they're younger, I definitely think that trying to get them to at that elementary school age, there's more grown-ups more around.
Mm,
The parents are more involved there.
mm,
Trying to get that circle before you be like, hey, you need to go put your hands on someone. They're 8, they're 9.
mm,
It's a little bit different with teenagers. Parents a little bit more hands off.
mm-hmm.
And in that teenage time, it is that like mob mentality. And even though they don't mean to do it, it's like it just happens. It's almost
Right.
like nature, one person picks on them and then everyone else started jumping in. And sometime during that time, that's when I definitely want teenagers, hey, speak up for yourself. Don't just let someone talk about you. If you don't like it, say it.
Mm,
Say it out loud. And then also let them know, hey, don't step inside of my bubble because it may be some problems and issues,
mm,
and definitely if they're stepping inside your bubble and you go tell your mom or your dad, you go tell the teacher, you go tell them everything. And, sometimes news goes in one ear and out the other. They might get an issue because it's not their problem. And
mm,
that child or that whoever's dealing with that, if that keeps happening, either put your hands on them to let them know, hey, I don't like this. I've already told you. Now you've come into my bubble. You put your hands on me. Now I got to defend myself.
mm.
But it's a little bit different, also being conscious of it's a little bit different these days because most kids, the way they settle conflict is not with their hands. It's like, oh, let me go get a gun and shoot you. As we say back in the 80s, back in last century, you could fight somebody. And then 5 minutes later, you best friends
Yeah,
because
you
you know
dap
already,
them up.
yeah,
And,
you dap them up, and then next thing you know, you outside playing and everything. That's how it happened. It's almost like you got a little bit more respect with that physical. But now it's like, oh, you physically, now I gotta go kill you because if you punch me, it's like, it doesn't equal out.
yeah. So, like, let's say you're teaching a kid, like, okay, this guy, or I don't know, girl, whoever, pick on you.
Well, actually, makes me think about when you said like a girl. Years ago, when we opened up, I had a student and she was running into an issue with a boy
Mm,
bullying her at
mm,
school. She goes to a Catholic school.
mm,
And it was really, really bothering her. And she came in, she talked, and I asked her what was going on and what was the situation, how was he doing it to her?
mm,
And she's like, well, every time like we're in class, like, when my back is turned, he's like doing this to me. When we're in line, he's pushing at me. He's pulling my hair. He's always doing this. And I was like, so it's always with your back turned. And sort of like when no one's really looking, I said, well, you probably need to get country on him. And she's like, what
This
do
is
you
what you
mean?
taught her in class? Like,
Yeah,
you gotta get
I mean, it
country
was
on
one
it.
on one. I said, you got to get country on him. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you need to call him out publicly. And she was like, had a little confused look on her face. I said, well, next time he put his hands on you, you just turn around and be like, why are you putting your hands? I mean, you need to shout it out loud. Like, be like, hey, if you keep putting your hands on me, we're going to have a problem. Like, you shout it out so everyone's looking at him and you. And now the teacher going to come over like, what's going on? Well, he keep putting his hand on me. She said she did that. And we also worked on some stuff, some physical stuff. But after that, that was it.
Mm,
She came back in really, really happy. She's like, I was like, it's all about speaking up.
mm.
Sometimes your voice can be your biggest asset in solving conflict and just giving eye contact so they know that you're serious. That's one of the biggest assets. I mean, I've been doing karate over 30 years. It's not, I only had to use it a handful of times, even probably less than a hand, because just looking at someone and being boisterous and tall
Mm,
with your voice.
mm.
If that makes sense, being tall with your voice.
Yeah, definitely. And like the tongue is like one of the most powerful weapons, right? The tongue and the pen, like your written word and your spoken word, right?
Yes.
So let's say in a situation she speaks up, she goes country on him,
Mhm.
right? And she says, "Hey, we're gonna have a problem if you put your hands on me." and he pushes her, and she has to defend herself. What move are you teaching this kid to do first? Like, what are you thinking?
Well,
But sorry to back up for a second. Like, I'm assuming in the situation, or I feel like the right thing to do is, I'm assuming you do it, is like the parent knows like what you're saying to this child, right? Because this kid
Yes.
can't like tell whatever you want to this kid. He could hit someone and says, "Oh," or she hits someone and says, "Oh, my karate teacher told me to do that," right? So it's always like permission from the parent, like, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm going to say. Are you okay with that?"
Yes,
Right?
yes. The mother was great.
Yeah, mother's probably like, "Hey, she needs someone in her life like this,
Yes.
right? Who's going to tell her, not like a teacher's like, always keep your hands to yourself, no matter what." It's like, yeah, I mean, for the most part, but like at some point, you gotta stick up for yourself. You gotta
Yes.
command respect. So, what move are you teaching first? Like, what do you think they do?
I mean, I'm known for my high jump kicks and stuff like that.
You're 540 them in the face.
Yeah, no, I say if anything like something, I always like to be like, if someone grabs you, I like to show a very different move going to the neck, going somewhere to the eyes. Because if you hit someone to the eyes, it's going to be teary, then they go like looking at the vision. You hit them in the throat, they can't breathe. And it's not like you're trying to kill them to hit them in the throat, but that lets them know to get off. So I did show a wrist technique, but also like as the situation gets on.
What are you doing? You
steps.
clawing in the eyes? Like, what's happening? Like, I feel
More like
that's
a palm to the eyes, because
a
if you
palm. I was gonna say,
because
that
you
could
palm,
really mess someone up.
yeah,
the
because you
claws.
palm to the eyes, and then your hands are up with the teacher's like, "Hey, I ain't do nothing." But now the one kid looking like half a raccoon over there. I don't know what happened to him. He started like changing for Halloween early.
So you said like there's been a couple other times when you had to defend yourself. So I had two situations that I'll share. with
Okay.
me. One of them was when I was in high school. I was like a freshman, right? So freshman, like fresh meat, and it wasn't anything crazy was happening, but this guy was like pushing me around, and I don't think he knew that like I was strong and like did martial arts my whole life. And I remember just like doing almost like a C step, and like my back was towards the locker, and like doing a C step like around the person, and just like getting low and like pushing up against the locker, and like because he was trying to put me in the locker, I think was what was happening, and I was like, no, this ain't happening. And like I just like slammed him and like wrestled for like a couple seconds, where clearly I had like he was like junior or senior or something, and I was stronger than him, and he didn't realize that because I was tiny, right? And it was like that person didn't pick on me again. Like that was it. Like you had that little conflict, little wrestling, and like that was it.
Most time that most people, as they do say with most bullies, they just try to pick on someone that they think is weak. And really themselves, they're the ones that are weak. Maybe, and a lot of times it is some other issues that people deal with that you don't know about that makes them a bully. As you know, with life, my niece Anna, love my niece Anna, and we just had to talk about her about bullying. And she was bullying someone else that is smaller than her because, someone did it to her. And it's like a learned thing. We had to sit and talk to her, be like, hey, this is not what you do. You don't do that because someone else do that to you. Like, how did that make you feel? Now, how do you think she feels? And when is she going to play with you again? But I understand that it was more other issues with my niece that was going on that was sort of, she was expressing it outwardly and not knowing how. But after talking to her, we understood more. And it's like, okay, that's a really good thing, because sometimes it's just a good talking to. Sometimes kids got to vent too. And sometimes kids don't understand how to vent other than physical venting and getting in trouble. Then you're like, why you doing this? I know you're better than this. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the other side too, is like, okay, sometimes like, yeah, we teach kids how to prevent themselves from getting bullied, but sometimes they're the bully, right? Like, and they don't necessarily realize it or mean it. It's just like learned behavior from someone that did it to them, an older sibling, or sometimes parental abuse.
Yes.
Like, you never know what's going on in their life.
Loneliness, depression, it's just what goes on.
Yeah, so the other time that it happened to me, this wasn't really getting bullied, just like a time I had to defend myself. This is when I was in college. I was in my fraternity at the time. And this is probably, 2 in the morning. Everyone's just like drunk, and riled up. And this guy, he was in my fraternity, and he was a ROTC guy, so military.
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
So he was just like all pumped up, right?
I've done that.
And like he might have known I did martial arts. I think he knew I did martial arts. And so that's what he used to tease me. He was like, oh, karate guy, Matt Brenner, let's see what you got. Come on. And he's just drunk. And I'm also drunk, but not as drunk as him.
Yes.
And he's just being belligerent, and I had no interest. Like I'm trying to like meet girls, and he was trying to wrestle with me. Yeah. And I was like, all right, man. Like, but he kept on calling me out over, and I kept on like, man, like, listen, stop. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not fighting you. Just leave me alone. And he kept on doing it over and over and over. And eventually, what did he do? He got physical, right? He like pushed me. And then, like, I'm like, dude, just leave me alone. I'm really good at, like, walking away and not letting my ego get in the way. But then he, like, pushed me again. I was like, all right, man, this is going down. Like, immediately. We, like, tussle around for a little bit. I didn't want to strike him. That's the hard thing about karate. Like, you don't really want to, like, strike someone in the face. Like, you do if you have to.
Yes.
Right? But, like, I don't really want to. But, like, the other thing that's good about karate, or I guess if you do, like, taekwondo, too, is, like, your kicks are really good. So I know I can kick him in the face. If you don't train in martial arts, you never see that coming.
Yes.
Like, you expect someone to punch you, but you don't expect this kick coming from the side, right? But I couldn't really do that. But it's like with friends, I would like, if it was like a really good friend, we're like being like, just like guys, like messing around, like I would like kick and like touch their cheek. And like, or like touch their shoulder. And they'd be like, oh, I see what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So this guy, we just like get into it. And I get him in like a guillotine, and I drop back, and I'm like, "You good, bro? You good, bro?" And he obviously like can't breathe, and I'm like really digging in deep. Yeah. And he's just like, and his head is like in the wood floor, just like being smushed on the ground. And I'm like, "You're right now. You're right now. How do you feel now? How do you feel now?" And there's like all these people standing there watching. And then what happened? We got up, and I'm like, "Sorry, man. Listen, I didn't want to do that, but like you kept on doing it." He's like, "Oh, bro. That was awesome." And like he literally never said a word to me after that again in terms of like yelling out crap or trying to challenge me. And it was like, that's it. You just like earn your respect.
Yes.
There's like nothing. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you don't bring a weapon involved. And like, yeah, you're not like, I'm not trying to hurt this person later. It's just almost like two, I don't know, like deer like battling out and bumping heads.
It's just like with martial arts, you have that understanding of this knowledge of what was created, what it can do. And also you have an understanding with your mental knowledge that you've gained and your mental balance from practicing martial arts, what level to use. Everything in a confrontation ain't going to be an MMA the square thing.
Totally.
It's not going to be that. It's that sometimes just be like, hey, let me just put you in this hold and let you know, cool down. And then it's like, it can be done. And then it's like, just like you did. Which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and at that point in my training, like I do jujitsu now, but I didn't know any jujitsu. I just knew like a headlock. I said guillotine, but more to me it was like a headlock, right? I mean, there was a similar situation I would say with another kid too. Drunk at 2 a.m. situation. That's like what it always is.
It's a running theme. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a frat house, right? So that's gonna be that's always gonna be the theme. And this guy was much bigger than me though, like much bigger, and like definitely much stronger. And I remember I got him in a guillotine. And he picked me up, like still in the guillotine, picked me up and slammed me on like the wood floor. My head went back, like hit the thing. Like he let me go after that. And I was like, damn, I just got rocked.
Yeah.
I had like a giant bump in the back of my head. But even though like he got the better half of me in that time, like he totally did. Like, there was respect afterwards.
Yes.
And I kind of wanted to battle again because I'm like, all right, like, now I know I can't do that because like, he can just lift me up.
Yes.
So, and also, I probably didn't clinch my legs the way I should have. Like, now I know jiu-jitsu, that probably wouldn't happen. But, yeah, sometimes you need to just get out and stand up for yourself.
Yeah. For some reason, some people say, like, oh, you're like the shortest person, but like, you're the biggest person in the room. And I'm like, I don't understand it. It's like, because your voice. I'm like, well... Every time I go through a drive-thru, they always call me ma'am. I don't understand.
They do the same thing to me. Why does that happen? I call places, like I call like, I don't know, like my electric company, and they say ma'am. And I'm like, do I sound that effeminate? Like,
that's what I'm like, then I get around to the drive-thru window. I was like, what happened to the lady in the car? There wasn't no damn lady in the car. It was
like,
me.
Yeah, and then I'm like, what do I sound like? I get all self-conscious. Happens to me all the time. I say 50% of the time I get on the phone to talk with someone and they don't know who I am. They'll call me ma'am or miss. I'm like, yeah. I remember one time I had my girlfriend next to me. I'm on speakerphone, and she's just like looking at me like, and I'm like, that happens all the time. So, have you ever had any other like times where you actually had to defend yourself? That like,
well, I have a funny story. This is when I was like an underbelt, like when you don't know any better.
Yeah.
And we had learned like axe kick is my favorite kick. I love axe kicks, and we had learned a version called a roundhouse axe kick, which chops on a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Being very small, I think it was like
so regular axe kick goes like straight up and down.
Straight up and down.
And this one comes down on an angle.
Yeah, so
what do you hit
swing
with
it up on an angle, and you come still striking with your heel.
And are you hitting like collarbone or
collarbone? Yeah, that's where it's attack right in there. Okay. So you see where this story is going.
Yeah.
And so around the neighborhood, back then during the summertime, you know, you got outside and the kids just ran the streets. You go out early in the morning and you get back late at night, and this was like during the weekend. And there's one girl around the neighborhood. Her name was Nika. Big girl, thick
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
And like one of them girls that like, she be beating up boys. Like everybody around the neighborhood did not like being around Nika. It was like,
Stay away from Nika.
It was almost like, how can I describe? She was our neighborhood Debo. That's how it was. It's like, oh, Nika coming. And this day, for some reason, I was a target. And me and Nika got into it. And the kid, how kids, they get into it. And somehow I threw that roundhouse kick. I just learned it, that roundhouse axe kick. Pow, right on her neck. That was it. Like she dropped down, her neck was all messed up. And like she walking around the neighborhood and all the kids were laughing like, oh my God, don't mess with Heavy Duty because he gonna give you Nika neck. He gonna kick you in the neck.
You're Heavy Duty?
Yeah, that's what they call it. That's my nickname around here. Heavy Duty, And we became friends too. But it was just like, after that, she didn't like really be bullying people because it was just so funny. But it was just like one of them kid things like, oh, I learned to move and I actually used it. But I would never do that now. It was like young, dumb, stupid stuff. But she was picking on me and I could kick high. And she was a lot taller than me too. I think that was what impressed the kids, that I kicked like that high, dropped her, fight stopped. They like, what the hell we just see? Black Bruce Lee? Like,
I can't imagine how embarrassing that is to have someone way smaller than you kick you on the neck. I mean, like that's like the most that's a weird kick you've never seen before. Like maybe a front kick you've probably seen in movies or a roundhouse, but some crazy roundhouse axe kick to the collarbone. I think I'd rather get rocked in the face with a elbow.
That was so funny. So I knew karate was probably something for me. That was
how did you get into a competitive circuit?
Like when I started karate, I mean, I didn't really know anything about tournaments. So like when I started karate, my instructor's like, there's a karate tournament that we're getting ready for at school. And it was in Huntsville. I lived in Athens and everything, and I didn't know. I was still like an orange belt. And so like the only kata I knew was first basic kata, Kichi Young Gullibu, like downward block punch, downward block punch. And being poor, I was like, how am I going to get to the tournament? How am I going to do this? And my instructor actually let me stay at his house. I stayed with him, his family, his two sons, spent the night. They took me to the first tournament. I was nervous as hell because, first of all, I'm already like very, very shy, very shy. And so like very inside, and like getting out there and to perform and do something was definitely out of my comfort zone. And so when I did go out there and compete and I did first basic and got like first place. And during that
first place in your first competition?
First place, first competition, orange belt, and the trophy was 5 foot. And I wasn't 5 foot. I mean, so I had this big trophy. I'm like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. I got first in forms, second in fighting. And I really liked the fighting and everything like that. But my first instructor got me into it. And because I didn't know at the time that he was over the circuit. They call it the AKC, the Alabama Karate Circuit. And he was like over it. And was like these schools, like just home schools that like do their own tournaments, but everyone got a chance to do it. So it was really, really nice. It was a great competition. It was some of the best competitions that I've ever had, like competing against people and learning and everything. So yeah, I got the bug in 1991. That was it.
Cool. The year that I was born.
Oh,
I was just a good time when you were doing that. So then eventually you moved to NASCA. And if you're not familiar, if you're listening to this, NASCA is like, what does that stand for? I don't know. National American.
North American Sports Karate Association.
Yeah, so big organization that's highly respected in the competition world. So you joined NASCA, and then eventually you become a world champion. Like 2 questions, I guess, regarding that. Like, one, how did the karate world accept you as a gay guy?
Oh, I wasn't out.
You weren't out.
I
kept it hidden to them.
Yeah, I mean, I was out at home in Alabama with friends and family and everything, but that was karate was like my passion. That was my journey. I didn't want anyone to be like, oh, he's gay and let that get in front. No, I didn't want any of that. The only thing I want for my karate work to speak for me.
Did you feel like you weren't going to be accepted, or you just
yes.
What is that? Because like
the macho-ness in the karate world.
Okay, I go very traditional too, right?
Yeah.
So
I think people probably knew, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't think personally, I didn't know for years. Like when
Yeah.
I met you, like way later. I mean, it just never crossed my mind. I mean, I know you were a great cook, but yeah, I was like, oh, he's from Alabama. He's got to be a great cook. He always talks how good his family's food is. So when you first started doing the NASCAR circuit, you didn't tell anyone.
No.
How did that eventually come out, or did it come out, or was like when?
Well, select few that was very close to me, I did tell, I did come out to one person on the circuit that knew. And this is sort of like right now, it's going to be sort of like a hard, rocky subject to talk about
Sure.
because I don't know how to approach it when someone helps you, but then they do something so bad. How do I look at them? It almost like fracture a relationship.
Uh-huh.
And like when I came out to a guy named Jimmy Bonfiglio.
Okay.
He like sort of like sponsored a karate team called Team Karate Cares
Okay.
and everything. And like at the time, like nobody would put me on a karate team. No Paul Mitchell. I wasn't a world champion. And so he sort of gave me a chance.
You weren't a world champion at that time.
At that
so
time.
Yeah.
And he gave me a chance and actually like paid for tournaments, paid for rooms. I didn't have the money to do that. Like
Yeah.
it was all a blessing for my whole karate experience and journey being on NASCAR because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And I would call him at like 2:00 in the morning in Long Island, collect, just crying because what's going on at the house, what's going on in the family life. It was so broken.
Mm.
And he would pick up the phone and talk to me and everything. And I finally came out to him, and he accepted me and everything.
He's like a
like
mentor.
That.
He's the same age. He's older because
he was over and everything
so he's
like
like
that.
a mentor to you.
Yeah, but reason why I say it's troubling because it's like he helped me be a world champion.
Mm.
But to find out later, we're friends, talking to him and everything, and all of a sudden, just how would you feel if you get a call from a detective out of nowhere, like, "Hey, do you know this person?" "Yeah, I know this person." "Well, we have a couple questions to ask you. Do you ever know about him touching people, doing this
God.
and everything?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And I like this look on my face. I was like distressed. Even now, this has been years ago. I've never got the resolution to even talk to him to say like, what the hell happened? What the, happened? Because I've known him for years, and then to come to find out that he did this in the karate world, and it's not that unfamiliar because I've heard other stories of this happening. You've probably too.
Yeah.
Which just infuriates me, and definitely as a gay person, it sort of gives a bad rep because they think that I don't want my kid to be around this. So it's sort of like it's hard.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I want to do is help. What he did was just it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't happen.
And like the worst part about it, when there's something like that in martial arts.
Yes.
And I saw one recently in Texas, one of my friends, one of my martial arts friends, like, it wasn't someone I know personally, but he posted like, hey, this other dude in this other martial arts organization got in trouble. So it does happen. But the thing I hate about it the most, it's like the most infuriating, is that like we're so trusted by families and kids, and then people lose their trust. And it's not
Yes.
like, oh, that was there, it doesn't affect me. It does affect me.
Yes.
Like we're trusted with kids more than anyone else, and to have someone abuse that trust to do something horrific, like I want to like murder them.
Well,
like
prime story, like when we opened up my school, when me and Mr. Clark opened up the school together, and we was doing the stuff to outreach to the community and trying to get people to come into our school. And you know the story, what happened with the school that was close to our town, yet again, instructor touching someone. So now our name was out there, and we're not even associated with him, even though we have the same name of the school. We're not associated with him. We're at, I think, a hockey rink and everything, and we're doing like the lollipop thing where you draw the 2 weeks and get the numbers and stuff. And one kid came up there, and the mother like immediately like grabbed the son by the shoulders, like, "No, get away from this school. Like, do you know what you did? Like, why are you guys here?" Like, she was getting all on to us. And we're looking like we had nothing to do with that. We wasn't even here. It was years ago. But it's now affecting us, and us having to fight that to try to let people know, no, we're only here to help.
Yeah.
We're only here to help and share. That's
Yeah. And like we're one of the most trusted people like for kids. Like there's no one that's really more trusted than martial arts. I'm sure you have students and anyone who's listening to this who has a school, like you have kids that start when they're like 4 or 5 years old and till like their 20s, right? Or later.
I've had
Right.
kids start that they didn't know there was gonna be a karate because they were still in the mama's belly. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be a karate student," like talking
Yeah.
at the mama's belly. Like, I mean, I have an assistant instructor right now that he couldn't talk, couldn't walk. He was in a baby carriage just looking up into these blue eyes. Now he's an instructor at the school. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's so
wow.
cool. And it's like they're your family. You know, like I
Yes.
have students right now that like they've been with me for so long. If God forbid something happened to their parents or something happened to their family, and I had to take care, or like they had no one, I would take care of this kid. Like I would do whatever I possibly could to make sure they have a good life because like they're like family to me. You know, even if I don't teach them every day, because I'm not, I don't teach every day anymore. You know, just like more management. But like they're just a big part of your life, right?
Yes.
So that whenever you hear someone else that's like does something horrific, it's just like I said before, murder them. I probably wouldn't actually murder anyone, but like I'd want, like I get that feeling of like this is like the scum of the earth, you
Yes.
know?
Just
Yeah.
like you said, like it's so cool when you get that connection. Like I really love this story. I used to have karate twins at my school. It was a white mama and a black mama, but they were my karate twins. Because
Okay.
like if one asked a question, I knew the other was going to ask the question because they were so linked and everything. And both of them was like, "Oh, I can't do this." So it was just such awesome connection. And whenever one of the moms, they both got their second degree black belt, but she changed. Her name is Mama Thorpe. She changed jobs. So they just recently, like last year, moved up to Rhode Island, and they was like they got another karate school and everything. But I call her my karate sister,
Okay.
even though they've been gone. We still call each other. We call and talk to each other, and it's like a weekly call or like 2 weeks every like once a month. Like we still connect over Christmas. What's going on? It's just like thank you for calling. Like it seemed like you just called at the right amount of time, and it's not that we're talking karate, we're just talking life, and it's just a really good connection. She's, I'm going to continue my karate journey, even if it's not training with you. Even though it was awesome training with you, she was like, I'm trying to talk. She never thought that she would do karate, but she was just thanking me. She's like, the way you put it made it so understandable. And now being at another school and see how they do it, you sort of like nurtured us, like, and helped me understand karate better because of the way you put it.
Yeah.
And it's like now training with another instructor is like, I can't understand him. And so she was coming in to talk to him because I encouraged her. I said, don't quit karate. Like, don't give up. I mean, talk to the instructor. He will help you understand it. I was like, I know your katas that you're doing because we started talking. I was like, I patterned this. She was like, yeah, you know this one? I was like, yep, I do. Like, I was like, so you can always call me about any questions on what you're training. I can help you, even if we're states away. So just having that still connection is really, really cool.
So to go back to where you were before in the competition, so you started competing in NASCAR. When did you become a world champion? Like, what did the training process look like for that?
Well, you gotta, as they say, pay your dues.
Yeah.
So, like, I want to say, like, I experienced my first NASCAR tournament, Battle of Atlanta, 1993,
Okay.
and I was still an underbelt, and I started competing as a black belt in '95, and then like going to certain tournaments, I wouldn't do them all.
Mm-hmm.
But I started getting that experience, and people started getting my name out there. Like when I go to a double A tournament, people knew who I was regionally. Oh, that's Anthony Atkins. Oh, let's go watch him. That's Anthony Atkins.
How'd that make you feel? Now some people know you.
Well, it made me feel really good because my one instructor kept telling me like, "Oh, you're gonna be a world champion."
Oh, he told you that.
Oh yeah, he said start
That's
right
not
here.
the guy that like.
Not starting me. It was another
Okay,
instructor.
okay.
And he's like, "Well, I got my how to train like a world champion, how to properly go at it." Because I was a little bit wild. He sort of set me down and
Is
controlled
that
me a
where you
little
got
bit.
your like discipline from? You think?
Yes, definitely for competition and trying to be better.
Yeah, when I had private lessons with you, I remember like doing the same like 3 moves of a kata over and over and over and over, and like, I never really had that like repetition. And I remember like the craziest part about training with you is that like you would teach me this kata, and then I would do it like a creative form, right? And I would do it over and over and over again, like in sections, right? I'd do these 4 moves. Okay, now move. Now your transition between this move and this move isn't good. We got to do that again. And I remember like being at school, like waiting at the bus stop, going through it in my head over and over and over again. And I got to a point where like I couldn't mess it up if I tried.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't even think about it. It was just completely natural and feeling so like confident in it that when I got up there, like yeah, I had some nerves to compete, but like I just knew it so well. It was almost like impossible for me to mess up. And even though be very disciplined with me and yell at me like you're in
Crazy.
practice. Yeah, acting like a maniac, yelling things. I have no idea what you're saying half the time. Like it was just so good for me, and I'm like so appreciative of that now. And I know you did the same thing with my younger brother as well, and he got to do it from like even a younger age, and like to see him train. And he's like way better than I ever was.
Oh, DB is amazing. He's great.
Yeah, he's just so impressive. I'm like, damn, like to see someone like you make such an impact on my life, but also my little brother who's like, many years younger than me, like I don't know, 12, 15 years younger than me, is just like a super cool thing. Especially since like you're just so like, I don't know if hard ass is like the right word, but like disciplined, strict, maybe strict is
Well,
probably
as
more
they
the right word.
say, that was Sensei Lucius. You
Okay.
probably was working with Sensei Lucius. It
Oh, he
was
would
like,
come out.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Lucius didn't play. It was
Yeah.
just like, oh, you're hurt. Do it again.
Yeah.
No emotions,
Yeah.
because it was like, we're working.
And you know who you're gonna get when you walked in there.
Yeah,
It was
you never
like,
know.
how's he doing in there? So when did you become a world champion? Like how many years?
My first world title was 1999.
And that was in like
That
weapons or
that
open
was in
hand?
men's forums.
Men's forms.
Men's
Okay.
forums was my first world title. So like that was like really, really cool because I've been doing the juniors from like 96, 97, 98. Like 97 was my breakout year.
Mm.
Like that's the year that I was like won first and people started like, oh my God, this kid is doing something different than everyone else. I mean, 1997 Battle of Atlanta. The tournament before that was Charlie Nationals, and like I had been winning for a while, and I went to that tournament and got zero,
Mm.
and that was like just devastating. Go from
What do you mean
Alabama,
0?
I didn't place,
Oh,
didn't
you
place,
didn't place
in
at all. So
anything,
not first, second, or third.
not even in the top 8,
Okay. Wow.
and like that was like shocking to me because I've gone to tournaments and always place.
So did you mess up something specific? Did you fall, drop a wet?
No, I changed my style to fit what the judges wanted to see from the previous person that was winning the division.
Okay.
And so that style wasn't me. The style, like he was so good at Taekwondo, he could kick head levels. The guy was like Kingston. I mean, his kicks was amazing. And I was like, oh, that's the judge is so used to. Let me do this. So I was biting his style. I lost. Went back to this karate school, back to Sabine. We strapped everything from over 0. And I literally went to him. I said, this is what I wanted to do. And I told him an idea. And he was like, he didn't say I was crazy, but he was like, you do know that with that idea, because I want to come up with a move on my own. I said, there's things that people are doing, and how am I going to look different? I can't win trying to do everything that someone else is doing. And so I'm a big nerd. I was playing a video game, and I seen this character do a flip to a split.
What game do you remember?
It was Fatal Fury.
Okay.
Fatal Fury 2. The character's name Kim Kaf 1. It was a Taekwondo character.
Okay.
And he would do this aerial move to the split. And I told my instructor about it. He's like, that's a video game move. Like, how are you going to take it in real life? I said, what about if I threw an axe kick and I swung my leg down? Because that's what he does. It looks like he's throwing an axe kick and dropping it into a split. And I was like, and I just kept training on that move. And then he was like, can you grab your leg and hold it? Like, that'll be your like next thing that you can do for him. And I started, and I worked out this kata that was like so uniquely like different, filled with a lot of jumps, 720 spins, and like an aerial to the split that no one's ever seen before. And I went out there in the junior boys division, and I think I was like first 10 to go up. I think I drew number 7. And at that time, I think it was like over 30 people in the division. And the last 2 people get seated. So they already knew they was going 1 and 2. And to go like in the top 7, 5 judges, and literally, I believe my scores was like 9-7, 9-8, 9-9, 9-9, like in a 9-9. Like, so I think I could drop the high and the low. I had a tremendously high score for being in the top. And the buzz started going like, who the hell is this kid?
So you like from a video game invented a move that no one had
Yes.
seen in competition before.
Yes.
What's that called? Do you have
An axe kick aerial.
axe kick? And for anyone who doesn't know, an aerial is a cartwheel with no hands.
Yes.
And then so the axe kick is first.
Yes, you throw an axe kick, but when you swing it down to the ground, you do not let it hit the ground. So your leg keep going. So when you're flipping off of one leg. So like I'll throw my right leg up, swing it all the way down super fast with my head, and go over into my axe kick into the aerial. So like the judge, you see like, oh, he's doing it off of one leg. And then as I come over, then I land into the split with my left leg in front of me.
God, I'm gonna have to get a clip of this and put it online. Was attached to this somehow so people can see it. So I remember also that you would like make up moves. Like,
Yes.
so that was the first one you made up.
Yes.
It sounds like. But I remember you made up some other ones. Like even like when you weren't competing, you'd be like, I was just like thinking about like, what if you could do like a backflip and do a handstand reverse? I don't know. It's just you're way more creative than me. Obviously, I can't even make up a move in my head right now. But like, there was one I think called a Spider-Man. Do you remember that
Yes,
one?
that was the front flip with a double front kick coming out.
Like a double front kick, like forward or to the side, like a split
Forward.
kick. Oh,
Forward.
forward.
Yeah.
So it was a
Forward and
front
then.
flip with a double front kick. So when you entered these competitions, now you're doing moves that people have never even seen before. What was the reaction?
Well, because you want to be different. The reaction was I wanted them watching my ring and coming around like, oh my God, come watch me. Because when you have that energy of people watching you, you just do so much better. And also the judges looking around, wow, look at these people watching this person. So it just became more entertaining. That was my outlet, my ring. Competition became my outlet for everything that was happening bad in the world to me. That was my safe zone, competition in that ring.
And then when you went out there and started like winning, how did you end up on ESPN? Like when did that happen? Because I feel like for a kid, like okay, martial arts competitions, like just martial arts people go watch that, right? But now you're on freaking ESPN.
Well, the ESPN, because I guess because the tournament promoter started like doing stuff with ESPN and having them come there because like that tournament is like one of the biggest tournaments because that's on a NASCAR circuit. It didn't only bring in people from North America, people came from Canada, people came from Mexico, people came from Europe. It was like an international tournament. And so that's what made it so much better. And I guess he had pulled some strings. But at that time, I was with my team partner, Ryan Pinkston. And me and him had started winning in a division called Team Synchronize. And so, like, having a good name, they started being like, oh, we want to put these divisions on stage. And so that's how I came up with, hey, you're winning. You're one of the world champions. We want to see this division. We want to highlight this division
Yeah,
on
I remember that
stage.
being super fire. Like
Oh, yeah.
watching that, and like, oh my god, these guys are so good. Like their
Oh,
synchronization was so
I
good.
love working synchronized because it's such a being an individual performer and then being a team performer and trying to do sync, especially with my team partner at the time, me and him wasn't the same size. I was an adult, he was kids, and how can we both equal out taking what I have and what he has and making it equal? I loved working with him because at that point he wasn't really known. So it's like, why is Anthony Atkins working with this person? Like we don't know who this person is. But that was the coolest thing because we're going against teams that were like world champions. You knew who that person was, one person was, who that other person was. They had multi world champions, and here I am being him going against them and beating them
Mm.
in their own. Like that was so cool. So
Yeah. So are you still friends with Ryan? Like, do you guys still talk or not
yeah,
really?
you know he's busy, but I'm really good friends with his mom and dad. We talk, Facebook friends,
Okay.
talk on the phone. The parents still talk about the wedding, my wedding, because I was like, that was the funnest wedding that we've ever gone to. So that was really awesome to see them come to it. You know, she's like my mama, Mama Pinkston, Daddy
Yeah.
Pinkston, you know.
So do you feel like you changed or the sport changed at all? Like when you started to come up, like it became more like athletic or
I,
more gymnastics movement sort of thing?
I wouldn't say more gymnastic because when I was coming up, it was almost like, when I say the competition was hot, you never knew who was going to win.
Mm.
It could be a point that like out of the division, like at least 8 or 9 people could get first place.
Mm.
You never knew. You had to be on. You had to be like on the money. Now I haven't even been back like to the circuit heavily since I really retired in what 05, you know, other than my last year competing in 04. I know the kids katas and I ain't even been there.
Mm.
I know exact format what they're doing because a lot of them is just biting off what somebody else had done. Oh, they're winning. Let me just take their format. You know, they're going to start in the back, move to the right corner, adjust their uniform, do all this stuff. They do this hand combination. It's like this cartwheel, corkscrew, missed the leg, flash kick thing, a chop punch into a 540, then a round off flash kick, a skip front kick at the end. It's the exact same format. It's nothing new that'll be like, hey, I want to watch your kata. What's your story that you're selling?
Mm.
What are you doing originally?
Mm.
And yeah, I do think it's like more tricks than kicks. You know, there's like a spinny, spinny, spinny and kicks. But also I think it's a lot from the judges because they're just like, oh, you got to do this now. But what happened to the karate? What happened to the chop punch? What happened to the blocks? Like, it's still originated in karate. You can still have, I mean, I'm a jump kicker. I'm not going to say don't jump and spin. But where is the karate in it too?
Right.
Where are the kicks in it?
Yeah, and I remember we've talked about that before, like finding the balance of like flashy tricking, but also having a really great forward stance and like your reverse punch, like your shoulders are square and it's tight and it's fast and it's like looks powerful and there's so many like small traditional things that like really make it good. And
Two people I look at like that I'm like. One is Matt Emming. Love his style. And when I say his style, it's his style. You can truly see like he is so unique in what he has created in his martial arts journey. Another person I love to watch, Rudy Raynon. If you've never seen this kid, like
is that a recent person or
no,
he's
he's
trained forever
older,
ago?
old
Okay,
school. Like I mean,
I've never seen
I would not
heard
say
that
like
name.
old school. He was a younger kid than me, but when he came up and working with him and James Solis and seeing his family in California, like the kid worked out as a beast, and it showed in the ring. His technique, his speed. He was like one of the competitors that didn't even throw a flash kick, a round off flash kick, which is like a standard in the kata. Even I had to have that in my kata. Everyone had to throw a round off something tough. You know, you
Yeah.
need at that gym. Not him. He did straight karate movement, and it was just beautiful. It was just like it was just on point, and I don't see that anymore. So I'm not even excited about tournaments, and I'm a tournament competitor, which
So,
is funny.
so how do you keep kids excited? Because obviously now, like you did the competitive circuit, and then eventually you came and joined like our martial arts family, and you've been teaching since then, like same school, right? So how do you keep kids engaged and excited in martial arts to the point where they want to do that cool, flashy stuff, but also are true to the fundamentals?
Being able to gauge it when to open that door for them. And a lot of times, in order to open that door for that person, it's most of that student that's going to say, hey, I would like to take that step through the door, which I have with a student before. The father came to me, said, hey, he needs a challenge. Like, he wants to try tournaments other than the action tournament, which they've done before. And I said, hey, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, a tough journey. Totally want to do it. And when I said that kid, when he started, it started on shaky terms. It was like his first lesson with Lucius, he was crying. And the only thing he had to do was speak. But he was so worried about his speech impediment that he was like crying and like over himself. And we got over that hump. And when he competed, like he definitely came in like, who is this kid? And I told him, so you're gonna come into this tournament. Like, who is this person? They didn't realize that. By his fourth tournament, he had won grand champion at a local tournament. But he won grand champions against a kid that he was competing for against a kid that was the kid's school tournament.
Mm.
And so it was all this kid's school family there. And he went in there and beat this kid. I told him, I said, you're going to win this trophy. Go pick out your trophy before you even compete. Because that was something my instructor used to do to me. Go pick out your trophy before you compete, because you already know you're going to earn it. Because you've already done the work
You don't
for
think
it.
that makes someone's head too big or
No.
not? No.
No. It's just that confidence coming in, that nerves, knowing that if you put in the work, you should get your results if it's fair.
So how do you feel like the martial arts industry has changed from when you first started? Like you said, being macho, didn't want to come out in the martial arts industry. So between then in the mid '90s to the 2020s.
Well, if you think about it, back then it was a little bit more traditional. Classes when like, oh, you got a school with 200 some students. If you had a school with 50 students, you're successful. And it wasn't like a lot of women, a lot of families, not a lot of kids. I mean, people at our school couldn't start till you're like 7 or 8, and I didn't start till I was 10. And it was like, and if the kid was like, oh, he got issue, he's not like listening and everything, yeah, leave the school. It wasn't like, oh, he got ADHD.
Yeah, let's help him. It's like, now you
Let's
gotta
help him.
go.
Everything. No, you got to go. Like he over here talking to the instructor, like you got to go.
I
Like
can't
you and your
imagine that
mama.
now. Like imagine like
That's-
you'd be like crucified on the internet if you like kick someone out. And I wouldn't want to do that either because that's just who we are, right? We always help people who have different issues. I mean, probably a quarter of the kids have ADD or ADHD.
Yes.
Right?
And it's just like that old school style of this is what it is and how it's going to be. And if you got to learn an issue, then I can't help you, but you're going to test like everyone else. And I love the more progressive style, but also sticking with some of those traditional, like I say, character things. Like yes, sir, and no, sir. I don't even call. I've had parents at the school over 10 years. I don't know their first name. I refuse to learn their first name. That's like a forbidden rule for me. Like they be, call me Christine. Like no. Either you're gonna be so and so's mama, or I'm gonna call you by your last name. But I'm not gonna call you by your first name.
Because of tradition.
Yeah, and it's too laissez-faire. And they do come to us for respect. And if they're saying, even if they don't come to us for respect, that's part of the key in it. And if that child has been like just saying, "Hey, Anthony, I'm your teacher. You're not gonna call me by my first name, especially my government name. You call me Mr. Atkins. You call me Master Atkins, and I'm gonna call you. If your last name is Gill, Mr. Gill, even though you're 6, it's just that respect and understand this respectful place of learning."
Mm. Now I'm scared because earlier I introduced you as Anthony to someone else. I would call you Mr. Atkins. But someone it wasn't a martial arts person. Like, oh, this is Anthony. It was almost weird for me to say. Like I felt like it was weird, but I also felt like it was weird to introduce you to someone who doesn't know martial arts or anything. To be like, oh, this is Master Atkins, or So now I'm like, watch your hands and feet. I'm like, oh crap, what's he gonna do?
No, nothing like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, that's what I was drawn to in the action karate community when I came up here in 2001 and went to 5 different schools, and I'm like, man, this is so awesome. How great feeling that it was like so homey, so inviting to, every school. And I was just up here for a week, and that feeling stayed with me for 3 years plus. When I called your brother in 2004, like, hey, you still got this job that you offered? Like, this is 3 years later. And I'd been traveling around places. And to say that Pennsylvania is my home, this is my home state, even though I'm born in Alabama, I feel at home in Pennsylvania. I really, really do. Like, this is my home state. And it's probably due with the action community from inviting me in and showing me the difference. And I love it. I love it.
Very cool.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because you asked me, like, how do I, like, started my karate journey?
Yeah.
Did you start your karate journey because your brothers and your sisters had started karate? Is that what got it in for you?
I mean, I don't really have a choice. I was 3 years old. My mom was like, "You're just doing it," and my older siblings did it. So I didn't really have a choice. I do remember like being extremely shy. I remember specifically my first martial arts class. Like it's like a vivid memory of mine. You have like certain moments in your life that like
Yes.
for some reason you remember more than anything else. So I remember going. I went on the mat, and I didn't want to do anything. Like I didn't want to kick or punch. It was very loud, and that was like very, I don't know, just uncomfortable for me. All the kiosks and the music and all these things happening. And I remember just like, all right, I want to get the hell out of here. How do I get out of here? What do kids do when they want to get out of something?
I just start crying or.
Yeah, exactly. I just started throwing like a hissy fit.
Oh.
Right. So I just start like crying and like banging on the ground and doing whatever. And I look over my mom, and her face is like beet red. Like she's just like, because I'm embarrassing her, obviously. Like you never want to be the mom of the kid who's like making a giant fuss. And she like walks out on the mat. When I say walk, I think it was like a more like a power stride. She's like,
Oh, I can
and
bet.
she grabs me by my ankles and drags me off the mat. And I'm like clawing the mat because and like even though I wanted to go, I just like wanted to make it like they're never gonna bring me back here, right? And my mom was just like so mad. I remember like on the way home thinking like, this is like she's mad at me and she's like yelling at me, but at least I won't have to go back there again. But what did she do? She made me go back again and again and again. And eventually I grew to love it. So I think for like parents, it's always the most frustrating thing as a teacher, and this is like when parents give up too easily on their kids.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Like, just don't give up. Like, just like let them fuss, let them cry, let them be angry, let them say they hate it because they're gonna get past it and they're gonna be okay. Like
when we first opened HV, and we have our
HV is the location.
Huntington Valley, yes sir.
Yeah.
We had a kid named Peter Michael. He was our first Ninja Shark. I did a daycare program, and the mother loved it. And Peter Michael came in. He was this little bitty kid, had a little brother. Mother was a big woman. She's a big woman, but very, very nice, very like awesome lady. When I say powerfully strong in her voice and just her presence, I'm not kidding. So he did his first lesson. Awesome. When we had class, we only had like 6 blue mats. It was very, very small. The school wasn't even complete. And he got on the floor and he started crying. Now, one person for that class, that's him. 30 minutes he cried. And she wouldn't let him leave the floor. He just sit there cried. Mr. Clark couldn't get him to do anything. That was the first day. The second day, we did classes for that age group for 4 days a week. 1 week goes by, exact same thing. It was like almost like over 3 weeks. And his mother wouldn't let him quit. She was like, oh, no, you're just going to sit here and cry? Like, you're just going to sit here and cry? We're going to do this. He started doing karate. When I say that, he was like our first really assistant at our school. Because when other kids like scared, we like, Peter Michael, can you go get him on the floor? He's like, yes, sir. And Peter Michael would like bring him on the floor and be like, hey, this. And it was amazing to see. And it was like the saddest thing because it was like one of our first families there, and then they had to move. And that's just like, I would just love to see how he would have come up, being the first kid. But that mother would not give up. I was
We
like,
need
man,
more parents like her
yeah.
who are just like diligent. And I think like whenever we have a parent who like is dealing with a child who is like difficult, right? I think this is really important for listening to this. Like, if you have a parent of a child that's difficult, like you have to think of what's going through their mind. And what's going through their mind is, why am I paying for this? I'd rather be doing other things. I don't want to deal with this frustration after work of like dragging my kid and like they're fussing or they're playing video games, they're crying. Like they don't want to deal with that. Like after a long day at work.
What was that Jim Carrey movie that he did, like the Yes Man
Oh yeah, he
movie?
said yes to everything. Yeah.
Yes to everything. I think a lot of parents, like the kids ask for it, they say yes to it. And then it's like all of a sudden it's like the kids got too much stuff on their plate, the parents got too much stuff on their plate, and it's just so easy for them to like want to quit stuff because they're like, oh, they quit this, then I don't have to drive this place because I said yes to it.
Right.
Other than saying like, no, if you're going to commit to this, you can't do this. We don't have that time. I don't think people manage that. Like, think about that. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like kids do now more than they ever have,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And they hop around. So one of the things we've noticed, especially after COVID, is that people are more likely to sign up like quicker, which has been nice to try new things because they're eager to try in-person activities, but they're also way quicker to quit, right?
Yeah, what also is like that management style of like, oh, I let my kids decide what they
Yeah.
want to do. All right, well, if they're grown enough to do that, are they going to pay some bills?
Yeah.
Like,
what if they don't want to brush their teeth? Are you cool with
You
that? They don't want to go to school.
yeah,
Are you okay
you're
with
gonna let
that?
them
Like, they don't
decide
go
that.
wipe their
Like,
ass? Like, okay. No, you need to decide with the parent. So I think one of the most important things is like if you're dealing with a parent whose child is being difficult, is in the beginning, let them know, hey, what you're dealing with right now, other people have felt the same way and they've done the same thing. And you're gonna have two options. You can either get really frustrated and say it's too difficult, I don't want to deal with it, and think, this is not meant for my child, and let them quit. So, which is they're gonna get to that if you don't say
yes.
anything. Or you can stick with it because you know that once you get past that hump, you're gonna be happy you did, and they're gonna be a much better kid because of it.
Well, a really great story on that point. I
Yeah.
have a student, a Ukrainian student, love him to death. He's been at our school since he was an officer sergeant, and he got a senior black belt. And I called him up. He had did like summer camp and everything. He went away, and I called him up and I was talking to him. I was like, "Hey, Mr. Eric, when you're coming back into class?" "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna come back into class. I'm thinking about like, just taking some time off." And I'm like, "So what do you mean? Like you did so good and everything?" And I talked to him. He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take some time off." Talk to the mom. Mom's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna let him decide to take some time off and everything." And I'm like a little bit like mad about it and everything because I'm like, how can I help them? The mother just wanted to do it. And then I get a call from the dad. "Yeah, I heard your call with Eric. Yeah, we need to work out a plan." This is a call from the dad. It's like, I don't want him to quit because, yeah, he had the summertime. His mother said it's okay. But it's like, I don't want it to be okay. He was like, "Can we get some time?" And I came in and he was able to bring Eric in and we talked live. And we had a discussion and everything like that. And I said, and he told me about what he was feeling. And I was like, "Well, you love helping out classes. Why don't you come in and help out?" He's like, "I can." I was like, "Yeah." That very next week, he was back on the floor, hasn't missed, helps out taking cards. And I did for the first year, this year, we did an instructor's giving just to create some community at our
Like
school.
a Thanksgiving event.
Like a
but for sure.
Thanksgiving with
Okay.
all the instructors, and they all brought something. He bought pierogies, and they got a call, and then I got a second
Why was I not invited to Pierogi Fest? That
I,
sounds
I don't know.
awesome.
It was great. It was great.
Sounds
Everyone
great.
brought food. It was so
Oh,
cool.
good.
Just sitting there having a great time as a karate family. And the dad's like, "Thank you, Mr. Atkins, for advice." He talks about that and how he did it and how he changed. And he hasn't missed. He
Yeah.
comes in, it's just awesome. It's just sometimes it's just trying to get it different. In the old school style instructor probably wouldn't have did something like that. But as that new school progressive is, okay, if I can't reach him here, how can I reach him?
Yeah.
And it was the best thing that his father reached out and understood that I don't want him to regret this. Him quitting something when he's done it since he was 3.
Yeah, exactly. And like what I think is most important, to go back to what I was saying before, is that you need to let the parent know that they're doing the right thing. Like, hey, I know he's gonna be crying, he's gonna be upset, it's gonna be very frustrating for you. You're gonna feel like, this is not worth it, or maybe you're doing the wrong thing as a parent. Why am I forcing my child? Like, tell them the things that they're going to think, and all
Yes.
parents naturally think. However, when you make him stick with something that he wanted to do initially or she wanted to do initially, and you make him stick through it, at least for the season or whatever your membership is, 6 months, 12 months, or maybe it's a certain belt rank or whatever, you're doing the right thing, even though it's frustrating as a parent.
Yes.
And I'm proud to have families like that in our school. And when you like frame someone that way and give them that like identity, like, oh, I'm that type of parent that doesn't give up on their child, it's really hard for them to backtrack and then be like, oh, yeah, you know what? Forget it. I don't want to force them to do anything because you gave them that identity.
Yes.
Right. And for anyone else, like who, let's say, is having trouble on the mat, like you said, sometimes just giving them the opportunity to be a leader for the younger kids. Like, I don't like to use the word help as much. I think sometimes we use that, but I try not to use that because like, I don't want them to feel like, oh, like you're doing me a favor. You're not doing me any favors. I'm really like supporting you and helping you, right? So like, hey, would you like to learn how to assist on the mat so you could lead other people? And like sometimes like the kids that aren't the most behaved and I don't have the most discipline, not always, but sometimes those are the kids that do the best with
Oh,
supporting other kids. And then they become better in their own class. And
yes,
it
sir.
completely transforms them. They just never had a leadership opportunity ever because they've always been the bad kid or the ADD kid. You know what I mean? And like
Mhm.
when you give them that opportunity, they can shine and they become
Yes.
so much better. I can't even tell you how many kids we've had like that in the past that have just because they had that option and that opportunity, they're just so much better.
Oh yeah, that's the fulfillment thing about karate. Get a chance to see that, and it's like, you just look at them like say that. I do my Professor Clump clap whenever the kids be like Hercules and the fingers don't touch. I'm like, I'm so proud of them. Like, it's just so awesome to see when you teach them and then they're able to give back. Because
Yeah.
that's the powerful thing about knowledge is, you can't keep it. You got to give it away to. You got to give it out because if you keep all the knowledge and you don't give it out, we're like the Egyptians burying stuff in the ground, and then we still finding stuff. But
Right.
but
Well,
what?
they're probably, I would say they're more like preserving it.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I don't know, more than hiding it. I don't know actually what the mentality is. In my head, that was preservation. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're hiding it. I don't know.
yeah, but think about all the lost knowledge. We have all this great knowledge, but think about all the lost knowledge in history that we don't know about. That it wasn't given out. It was kept in secret. It wasn't told to anybody, so they
Mm,
can write it out and give it to the world.
mm,
So much stuff has been lost. So like, I don't want this knowledge to be lost, so I keep it in my head. You
mm.
got to share it.
Gotta share with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you should always be looking for your next instructor on your floor, right? Whether it's gonna be someone who's gonna be an employee 10 years from now. When I say employee, I mean someone who's like gonna share the martial arts. Of course, you
Yes.
can pay them so they're an employee, but not like, oh, I just need an employee, right? It's like someone who can have a lifestyle of doing what they love. And it was funny because I was actually talking to one of my friends about this the other day, and like now he is interested in doing martial arts, like switching careers, and we're working on the training process for him. And the reason, like, he wasn't like very happy with his job, like he just has like a job that he goes to make money, right? And that's
Yeah.
it. Like, there's no connection to it in terms of his passion. And one of the things I told him that like I think made a big impact was like, hey, a lot of jobs you have, you're helping people. Okay. If you're selling cars, absolutely helping people. Selling insurance, you're helping people. You own a restaurant, you're feeding people. There's not many jobs where you see the direct impact of the work that you do directly in front of you and see how it changes someone's life.
Yes.
Like if you sell a car and you sell a safe car, like, hey, this car's gonna be safe for your family so you can travel back and forth to, your in-laws or whatever. Like that family needs that car and they need a safe car. And you're really helping them. Once they drive off that lot,
Yeah.
that's
That's it.
basically it. But for us, like we get to a couple things. People pay us to be there, so like teach them. So it's not like school where they have to go. So there's like
Yes.
this like added respect because like, hey, I'm paying you to teach me this. So you're choosing to go. The second thing is when you help them, you see how it actually impacts their life directly. How it helps them in school, if it's an adult, how it helps them in work, how it helps them lose weight, how it makes them feel more confident. As an instructor from our end, like there's nothing more like really satisfying. Like, what else would you want more out of life than being able to see direct impact of what you do?
I mean, you just said it perfectly. That just puts a smile on my face because
Mm,
I'm like thinking about like all the great memories, the great emotional feelings of seeing them, especially when you see someone get over a hurdle that maybe had a learning problem or a learning disability, and you see them like, man, they can do their katas, they can do their kicks. And if you ask them a question about it, they right on top of it. Like to see them have that success and you see the look on their face when they know, like, I've accomplished something. That bright smile, that feeling that they know that you can see it. It's just so amazing.
Mm.
Best thing ever. Better than fried chicken.
I don't think I go that far. I guess it depends what fried. Have you had Korean fried chicken? Like
Oh my God, yeah, there's a Korean fried chicken place around from my house. I love it.
What's that one called?
It's called BBQ Chicken.
BBQ chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It doesn't sound like Korean fried chicken.
I know it doesn't. It sounds like barbecue chicken, but it's like when I looked it up, I was like, "This is the Korean fried chicken."
That's
best
confusing.
ever. Oh yeah, it's really really good.
There's this guy who runs this fried chicken place called Andy's Fried Chicken.
I've heard of Andy's.
Okay, so I'll tell you a funny story about Andy's Fried Chicken. I go in there, Korean guy, right? And it's like a couple blocks from my house. So, I don't eat fried chicken all the time, but it's a treat. And, and I'm excited.
Especially Korean fried chicken is
double fried.
Oh, look, I brought some to my family, and it was like, "Who cooked this?" I was like, "Yeah, the Korean fried chicken." It was like, "Now is Korean Asian?" I'm like, "Come on, that."
That's Korean Asian. So I go into this Korean fried chicken place. You'll find this interesting. And I had our martial arts school sweatshirt on, and it had like the old Chinese flag on it. I think it was like red and white, like stripes.
Okay.
It looked like a sun.
Oh yeah.
And this guy.
Hold up, the red and white striped sun. That's the Japanese flag.
Japanese flag. Sorry, Japanese. I don't know why I said Chinese. Japanese. It had the red and white Japanese flag on it, and sun. And so I walk in there, and the guy was like Andy, like the guy who owns it, was like working the front, and like he has a couple locations, and I was talking to him, and he's like, and I was like, "Oh, you're the owner?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, that's very cool. Like, I come here all the time. The food's amazing. Like, it's just so crispy. Like, even if I eat it an hour later, it's still extremely crispy. I don't know how that's possible. Like, because they put sauce on it."
No, it's potato starch.
Potato starch. Okay.
Or even rice starch or rice flour.
No, that's secret. And double fried.
Yeah, and double fried.
So, because I cover it in this sweet chili sauce, is like juicy. So anyway, so he's like, "Hey, like, I know you don't mean it, and I know it's not your intention, but your sweatshirt is extremely offensive."
I know why.
And
Sorry.
I'm like, "What do you mean, man? Like, our karate school?" He's like, "Yeah, that flag is like for Korean people is what the Nazi flag is for Jewish people."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh my God, like, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "I don't think any of us knew that. We probably just Googled the image."
Well, because remember, Japanese came and ruled over Korea during World War II. And so that was one of the big reasons. So
yeah, so for him, it was extremely offensive. And I felt so bad because I'm like eating at his establishment. And he wasn't being mean or rude, right? He was just like, "I just want to let you know," sort of thing. Like, if a Korean person sees that, they're not going to like you.
Yeah.
So I literally took that sweatshirt, I threw it in the trash, and a couple months later, I got a different sweatshirt, and I went to go buy chicken, and I gave him the sweatshirt. And I'm like, "Hey, last time I was here, I don't know if you remember, here's what happened." He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. Like, I remember that conversation." And I'm like, "Yeah, like, thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't know." And I could see how you can be offended. Instead, I gave him a sweatshirt. I'm like, "Here's our school sweatshirt. Like, I just want to give it to you. It's just like a thank you." And he was just like, you could see in his face, like, how like happy he was that I actually responded to what he said. I'm like, "Hey, I threw it out. Like, we won't have that in another one of our sweatshirts again. Like, I'll make sure that never happens." But he was just like so proud that someone listened to him and like responded. I remember like months later and brought it to him, and we became friends. I got a cell phone number. Like, he actually moved back to South Korea. And I was just like, and I still like text him from time to time. And the fried chicken place closed, which I'm very upset about. Like, he closed. At least the other ones are locations I think are open, but the one near me is closed. And I'm just like texting him angry emojis all the time. Like, "Yo, man, like, how do you get a close on me?"
What's that? I think it's because where I live so close to like Upper Darby, PA, and they have like a really great like Asian like market, and there's food there. So anytime I want to get Asian food, I love Asian food. But speaking of what you was talking about like how some people don't like when you offend them and you don't know. So over the holidays, we had the conversation, like all the council culture, like, "Oh, they're Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima." Like, so one of my son-in-law said, like, "I don't know why they changed Aunt Jemima's name." And I said, "No, it's a good thing they changed Aunt Jemima's name." He was like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, she's been like a brand and everything." I was like, "Do you not know what it means to call someone an Aunt Jemima?" I said, "It's not just the name." I said, "That's like a demeaning name to a black woman." And he didn't know that.
Most people didn't know that.
No, I was like, so that's why you don't call someone. That's why I'm glad that she's not Aunt Jemima no more. Like, because that's not a.
Is it the "and" part or the Jemima part, or together?
Like, it's the name that they use down in South, almost just to call. It's just a demeaning name for a black woman.
Okay.
You know, almost like calling a grown man boy.
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
that ain't
got
your
it.
name.
Yeah.
That's like calling you out your name, like, you know.
So what do they call it now? I actually have no idea.
I don't know. Like,
I
I
don't
don't
even use
know.
syrup, so.
She may be a Megan now, Megan Syrup, or you know.
Megan syrup.
No, she probably don't look like a Megan.
No, she's not.
Probably
She's like the opposite of Megan.
maybe Anita Syrup. That'd be a great name. Listen, other than Jemima, Anita Syrup, like earlier.
Mm.
That's what you need when you get some pancakes, some syrup.
So, like you mentioned before, feeling warmth from a martial arts school, and like when you joined our family, and like you obviously had been around many, many times in many
Yes.
martial arts organizations, right? You've been to a million schools. You are hyper competitive, top of the industry. And by the way, like if you're listening to this, like go YouTube Anthony Atkins, Ryan Pinkston, like go look at them and train and their competitions in ESPN. And like it's kind of one of those things that like. It's not like it doesn't age well, but it's like the things that you guys did were new at the time.
Yes.
It's kind of like watching, what's that movie where they break out of the prison? It's like a famous movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I literally just blanking on the name. It's been out for 40 years or 30 years.
Shawshank Redemption?
Shawshank Redemption. It's like that was like one of the first like, prison break movies, right? And now, or no, wait, was that? No, that's not a prison break movie. I'm messing this up.
No,
Whatever.
he did break out of prison.
Yeah, okay.
Andy Dufresne, the character, did break out of prison.
I'm like really bad at like remembering movie scenes and actors' names. I just enjoy it for the entertainment. Just watch blindly like an idiot. So, but now like there's a million prison break movies, TV shows, or whatever. But like at the time, you guys were like really like the pioneers. Like you're like the people that were trying new movements people had never seen before and seeing all that. So go on YouTube and search Anthony Atkins, Ryan Pinkston, and it's freaking incredible. And no, like they were really the first people doing those things and just taking over the game. So you said like the reason I bring that up is because you said that you felt really warmed and welcomed. But you've been to a million schools before. You were hyper competitive. And we're not a hyper competitive school. It's not like you showed up and we were like, oh yeah, we have people training on the circuit and they're going to compete. Like we don't really do any of that. We do our in-house tournaments. We have a couple people that are competitive and they like that. But like that's really like more independent for them. Like we're not necessarily like pushing that. So this is not a part of our culture. So how did you reconcile those two things of like joining a school that's just more geared towards the average person, not a competitor, and you being a competitor at the time?
Well, how I reconciled it, like, because I knew from the time that I started karate that I wanted to be a karate teacher.
Okay.
I knew that there was going to be a path to it. So I knew on the karate circuit that I wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to be competing forever. I knew that was not my plan to be on the circuit for 20, 30 years. I knew that it was like meeting people, trying to network. And it's like when you're doing karate, it's not like if you go to like business school, you can sort of do these network things and find out people.
Networking events, yeah.
Back then, it was just like the best way to network is going to tournaments, and with some of these tournaments, like your brother would go to show up to DC. That was a tournament that I would go to. That's their local tournament.
Yeah.
So that was like one big tournament they would go to. That was just one of my stops, and being able to meet people through there and be like, hey, I can come to your school and do a seminar. And as I was doing seminars, I was like using it as like my karate colleges, like going to different schools and be like, okay, talking to this instructor and literally looking at them and be like, how are they treating their students? I've gone into schools and I could tell which students the instructor liked and which students the instructor didn't have time for. You could see the favoritism. And I didn't sense that in action. It was just like everybody was a favorite. Everyone got a hello. It was like such a great opening, like eye-opening and fresh eyes to karate that I was like, if I was going to be anywhere, I definitely circled that. When definitely your brother offered me that job, I circled that like, this is something I may could come back to.
And it's funny as he offered you a job. And like he knew you, but like I don't think he knew you super well at the time.
Because I just visit once.
Yeah, but you're just like a hyper competitor. And it's damn, it'd be cool to have someone who's like really good at martial arts in our school. Obviously, who wouldn't want like great talent? And then it was 3 years later, you hit him up and was like, "Hey, is that offer still on the table?"
Yeah, it was. I just called because I was not happy where I was, and I was just like call him out of blue. Like, I mean, just think about you get a call from someone they've been with you for 5 days, and this wasn't with you the whole time, the 5 days, but it was with you 5 days. All right, bye. And then you get a call 3 years later. Hey, how you doing? Like, hey, you got a job offer? You like, that's exactly how it sort of went. Like 5 days here, 3 years later. I think I called on a Monday. I was out here on a Wednesday.
What made you finally decide to make that call? I mean, I'm sure it's in the back of your mind for some time.
Well, the experience I'd had, like being in California, I knew that I didn't want to be there. And just trying to find the direction and the options. And one direction was go back home to Alabama, sit on your couch, and I knew I would probably be miserable if I went back to Alabama. And good thing I called my big sister, and it was a late night call. And basically, she said, "I'd rather you sleep outside than come back home to Alabama because you're not going to be happy." And
Why do you think you wouldn't be happy there?
it's Alabama. Like, would you be happy in Alabama?
I don't know. I've never been to Alabama.
Born and raised there's nothing really, me being out the way I am and what I know, the passion, it wouldn't go well in Alabama. I just don't think I would find happiness. And so I was like, I'm not, it was good that she stopped me from going to Alabama. And I had a book that I would write everything down, the schools I would visit to, like, what's my experience. And I started flipping through that book and I seen Solomon Brenner. Oh, job offer. Went up here. Called.
It's good organization to like remember that and see that. And
Got a plan.
You do have a crazy memory. I'll tell you that. Like, if anyone's listening to this, like, for anyone that's listening to this, he would like remember like people's creative kata that they made like years prior. Like, let's say he helped you like create a kata in like private lessons like 5 years earlier. He'd still remember all the moves. And like, I can't remember a kata I learned like 6 months ago. I went through 5,000 times. And somehow you remember other people's that you helped, and like, so crazy. So thank you so much for being on here today. I had a blast.
Oh, I had a blast. This was great. We didn't even get to everything. You may have to invite me back.
Oh, we're gonna have to have you come back because there's more stories. I want to talk about more also like your cooking because like there's like some cooking stories. I feel like when you first came to Philly, where you would make these things that had like 7,000 pounds of butter. It was like the most calorie dense food you ever had, but it was the most delicious. I never had anything like it. Like my family would eat freaking microwave hot dogs, and I come over to your house and you'd have like I don't even know what you'd make. It was just like always unbelievable.
Very Southern French style. now my style has definitely changed. It's definitely
it's definitely more like less butter.
It's way less butter. I've learned which type of fats to use and still keep a lot of flavor. I've just expanded my spices.
Yeah. All right. Cool. We'll have to talk about that next time. I also want to share a couple stories from you and I as well. But thank you so much for being on here. You're awesome. If you want to add him on Facebook, you can find him Anthony Atkins. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, hey, I would love to find out how to be able to grow my school, like you mentioned earlier, being able to recruit that one student from a daycare. If you want to learn how to recruit your students from a daycare, business, or schools, we call that the Triangle Codex. And it's the strategy we use to recruit students organically, so you don't have to depend on ads or a fancy website. Reach out to me, Matthew Brenner, on Facebook or on Instagram at blackbeltbrenner1, or visit wdojo.com. I have a 9-minute video on there, really short, that explains exactly how I can help you do it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk later.
Thank you. Peace out.